Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
You are listening to the TrekRanks Podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 5, featuring 5 episode marathons for Star Trek Newcomers. All right, welcome Star Trek fans, and hopefully maybe welcome to some non-Star Trek fans who maybe picked this episode to download. Because as you just heard, this episode of the TrekRanks Podcast is designed for Star Trek newcomers. And I am your host, Jim Moorhouse. And with me tonight, as always, is Mr. Jeff Hulit, the founder of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. Welcome, Jeff.
How's it going, Jim? I just picked up on the fact that you think some newbies might be listening, so we may have to watch for some spoiler alerts while we're doing this.
Oh, that's actually a really good point, but too bad. Spoilers are coming.
So sad. Too bad.
Spoilers are coming. All right. And for tonight's episode, we have 2 very special guests joining us. This is our first 4-person episode, so we're excited about that. First up, we have longtime Star Trek fan Bill Mann, the co-host of TrekLive, who, like me, loves to rank some Star Trek, and he has done that in epic proportions over the past few years on Twitter. Bill, are you there?
I am here.
All right.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Great to have you finally and actually communicate other than on Twitter, which we've been doing forever.
Yes. This is really exciting. I'm really grateful that you asked me to come on. Thrilled to be here, like I said.
And also joining us is my good friend Gerardo Yanes, who was actually a relatively new Star Trek fan, he was introduced to Trek with the Kelvin Timeline films. Gerardo, are you connected via subspace?
Yep.
Okay. We have everybody in. So I just want to get a quick background here from Bill and Gerardo on their Trek fandom and kind of what brought them to Trek. So Bill, you first. How long have you been a Trek fan forever, or what's your kind of background for Trek?
I have been a Trek fan forever. I was indoctrinated as a young one from as long as I can remember. My favorite movie as like a toddler was Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is a little strange, I guess. But and the music and the imagery all just kind of mesmerized me from a young age. And I spent my childhood watching TOS on VHS and TNG on VHS, and grew into DS9 being on Live and Voyager, and Enterprise was on during my 4 years of high school. Enterprise was 4 seasons, was my 4 years of high school, so I have a really special connection to that show too. So yeah, I've been a fan forever, and it's just grown over time. And since I've been active on Twitter and gotten to share in the fandom, it's just gotten bigger and bigger. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's similar to me and Jeff. And then now Gerardo, tell the listeners about how you got into Trek.
Well, I basically got into it, as you said, through the Kelvin Timeline films. Like, I kind of knew of Star Trek beforehand, but not really. And I only ever knew, it through parodies and, how some shows would make references to it.
Yep.
And it was Star Trek 2009 that really brought it to my attention for the first time, because it was, being so talked about everywhere, from what I remember. And it was Into Darkness, shockingly enough, that actually really pulled me into the franchise, because they were making all these references and paying homage to stuff that I was like, this is connected to those older films, and I'm really curious as to exactly how it is. And that's what ultimately led to me becoming a Trek fan.
Amazing.
I love that, because I think the first time we met, I knew that you knew Trek, and you had a reference for every episode, through the 50 years and 700 episodes. But what I couldn't believe was that you had started watching a year ago. I was like, when I realized that, I was like, wait, you watched every episode in the last year and a half? Pretty cool to come to it so late and get so embedded so quick. So love that. All right. So before we get started here, let's just do a quick reset on general order number 1 here at the TrekRanks Podcast. which, just in case this happens to be the first time you're joining us, we like to rank Trek, which means we're doing a deep dive on one specific topic and hopefully going to have some fun with it and maybe think about a few episodes or ideas that you haven't thought about in a while, or maybe in a specific way that you haven't previously thought about. So for us, it's all about just having fun, and having a discussion about Trek. And we use the rankings as our crutch to do that. We're not here to create any kind of definitive list for all time. We're just having a fun conversation about what we love about Star Trek. And as my good friend, the Vulcan Master, likes to remind us each week, the main driver for all of our discussion here at the TrekRanks Podcast is
infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
So with that in mind, just a reminder that TrekRanks is not about being right. And it's really just about engaging with other fans and thinking about things in a different way. So for me, there's really no better way to do that than to hear from my co-hosts and our listeners about the lists and their favorites and the way they approach Star Trek. So and remember, when we talk about Star Trek here, it's not just about, we're not here about nitpicking the things we don't like. If that's your thing, you can find that probably on another podcast. As you probably picked up, I love all Trek, original series, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and I love the Kelvin Timeline. So it's all fair games here on the TrekRanks Podcast.
Soon to be Discovery, too.
Oh, that's right. I cannot wait to start adding that. Can't wait. All right, Jeff, before we kick off this marathon session, can you please power up the subspace transceiver array so our listeners know exactly how they can message us?
Hailing frequencies are open.
All right, Jim. So if you're looking to reach us on social media or online, we are at trekranks.thetricordertransmissions.com. You can find us on Twitter at TrekRanks, or if you want to talk to the entire network, we're at Tricorder Show. We also have a voicemail number, which again we'll be mentioning again at the end of the show, which is 609-512-LLAP. And if you're looking for me personally, I am Warp Factor Jeff on Twitter. Back to you, Jim.
Awesome. And additionally, you can check us out at the TrekRanks page at the tricordertransmissions.com, where we now have a running total of some of our ongoing statistics. So you can see what kind of love each series has been getting in terms of the different kind of fan feedback we've been receiving, which Jeff put together. And let me quickly emphasize again that this show is way better when we hear from you. So we love hearing your lists and reading your lists, and I know you want to send them in. So please do it. And you can reach me at Enterprise Extra and at TrekRanks. So please do that, because I love to talk about Star Trek. It's literally my favorite thing to do. All right, Gerardo, please let everyone know how they can get a hold of you. You're on Twitter and Facebook, right?
Yeah, though the best and ideal way to communicate with me is probably Twitter, where my handle is Gerardo Yanes 96.
Awesome. And Bill, how about you? What's the best way for people to track you down at, I know, at TrekLive, and maybe tell people a little bit about TrekLive too.
I'd be happy to. Easiest way to find me personally is on Twitter. I'm pretty exclusively on there at TrekFan4387. And TrekLive is the YouTube show that I co-host with my good buddy Dan. It's a sort of a live hangout atmosphere where people can come and talk to us about a given topic that we do each week, and just as importantly, meet other fans in sort of a live environment where you can kind of have back and forth and hopefully make friends that way. So that's what we do every week, and occasionally more than once a week. Great deal of fun having live interactions with people. It's a little different than a traditional podcast, and that's kind of what our goal has been, and we're growing and having a good time doing it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very unique and very different. It took me a second to kind of click in that it's totally different than a podcast.
Yeah.
And fun to, when you can tune in live to actually be in the chat room and talk to other fans
Absolutely.
about whatever topic you guys are diving into. It's cool.
Yeah, we do similar things to what you guys do here. We look at our favorite this or that. We have that's like an easy thing for people to chime in and communicate and participate with. So that's kind of our aim oftentimes. And I encourage everybody to stop by if they're so inclined and available.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why you're here. Because you guys are killing it there. All right, so Jeff, I see Boothby raising his starter's pistol, and he's ready to get this marathon underway.
All right.
So I think we're going to skip the diagnostic cycle this week, and we're going to jump straight into our Prime Directives.
I do not concur with your captain's decision.
She's following our Prime Directive.
Define Prime Directive.
All right, so we are changing it up a little bit tonight. Instead of a straight ranking list and a top 5 list, we are going to each put together our perfect recommendation of a 5-episode marathon for a Star Trek Newcomer. And the idea is really just to put 5 episodes in order that you think will convince a Star Trek newbie to just keep watching and to want to consume all 700 plus hours of Trek. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at this type of challenge. So let's get into everyone's prime directives for these picks. So Jeff, let's start with you. What drove your picks? What did you want to convey to someone catching Trek for the first time?
Great question. So my approach to this, I tried to hit different notes with all of my picks. I didn't want to pick too much of a repetitive theme. I wanted to represent different variations of Trek to get a well-rounded feel if you're a newbie for what Trek has to offer in all of its different incarnations. So, and it was actually kind of easy for me to pick when I hit on that methodology, but what I ran into was the sequencing was what became my problem. And I guess it's something that people may not know necessarily about me. Maybe a couple of my friends in real life know this about me, but one of my hobbies for most of my life has been making music playlists and back from the old mixtape days and mix CD days. So all of a sudden my instinct kicked in and I had to put it in the perfect order so that, when you started watching this marathon, it led you through and kind of gave you a kind of a rise and fall type of feel to it. So you were a little bit of a roller coaster on your way through. So I poured a lot more time into the order after narrowing down my 5 episodes. So this was actually a lot of fun for me.
Wow, that's okay. That is interesting because I didn't spend as much time on order as I did on just trying to narrow the list down, which was brutal. How about you, Gerardo? Anything specific that you were thinking about compiling your list, especially as someone that we said who's only been watching Trek for about 5 years or so?
Well, for me, I really based it on my past experiences of getting people into Star Trek because ever since I became so obsessed with the franchise, I've been trying to get pretty much anyone who was willing and is a friend of mine to try and give the franchise a try. So I've done this many times where I'm trying to show them the best episodes to try and pull them in.
I love that. So you've actually already put this to the test.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Classic. All right. And Bill, what about you? How did you go about picking 5 episodes to try to convince someone just to keep rolling and keep watching?
Well, I made a decision pretty early on that I was going to try to cast a wide net, giving a taste test of all 5 of the series. So what I tried to do was to pick an episode from each show that sort of epitomizes the show as a whole, sort of like I said, a taste test. If you like this episode, what's to come is pretty much more of what you see here. I tried to pick episodes that focused on the lead, the captain, and kind of defined the character through that episode. So that's kind of the way I went. And the reason for it mainly is because I don't know how somebody might respond to all these different things. The old school retro vibe of TOS might work on somebody, but a strong female lead might work on somebody else from Voyager. The newer production values and newer look of Enterprise might work on somebody else. So I tried to give as many opportunities for something to hit and maybe get a hook in through all these different shows. So
that is impressive. I already want to watch your list. I already love your list. That's fantastic. For me, it was brutal. I really looked for what episodes I thought would have a hook to in kind of interesting standalone story ways to get someone interested in just wanting more. And I wanted episodes that really had that Star Trek message of some type of morality play, So those were the things that were driving me. I wanted to get something from every series, but I failed miserably at that task. Miserably. Spoiler alert. So I hate my list. All right. So, all right, before we introduce our good friend, Third Ramadaclon, to help us get through the order of things, just a quick reminder again of how we're going to discuss each pick tonight. We're going to reveal our picks round by round to kind of slowly go through everyone's marathon. And then we'll give our 5-word summary and a hashtag for our picks, which is our quick, easy way to communicate and connect. Someone can get a feel for how you look at an episode. and then we'll give a couple of quick reasons of why we chose that episode and why we think it's a good introduction to Star Trek. All right, so you guys ready?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, let's move into the order of things with third Emoticon. Are you there?
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Okay, we're going to jump right in. Gerardo, what is the first episode on your list?
All right. This probably won't come as a shock since you know me so well, but my first choice is Where No Man Has Gone Before. There can only be one. Hashtag the ideal TOS pilot.
Perfect.
Nice one.
So what did you love about this episode? You're starting right at the beginning, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much the perfect way to describe why I think it's so perfect, because like of the 3 TOS pilots we got, because in my eyes, we had 3. There's the Man Trap, there's this episode, and then there's the Cage. And of the 3, I just felt that this was the true intended beginning of the Star Trek franchise. Like, yeah, technically the Cage was, but I mean that in regards to the Star Trek we know and love, you know?
Yep, that makes sense. All right, so we're starting right at the beginning. So, Bill, match that. What's your number 1 episode for a 5-episode marathon for a Star Trek Newcomer?
Well, for TOS, my 5-word summary is there is no third planet. Hashtag there was, but not anymore. I went with Season 2, Episode 6, The Doomsday Machine.
Amazing.
I think so. I think it's kind of the perfect TOS episode, especially for somebody who isn't real attuned to what Star Trek is. It's got the morality element to it. It's got a thematic morality play going on in kind of the underbelly of the episode. But it's huge, it's cinematic, it's exciting, it's action adventure, and it does, most importantly, I think it really does a good job highlighting Kirk. He's at his most heroic in that, I think. I think Spock's great in it. McCoy's got great moments, and Scotty kind of steals the episode. So it does a really good job of defining the characters. I don't think you need to know a whole lot going into it. I think the fast pace, the action would work on somebody that doesn't really know what they're walking into.
Yeah,
that's my pick.
Doomsday Machine was definitely on my short list.
Yeah, mine too.
And a late cut. All right, so Jeff, I love this TOS start. Let's see if we can continue that with Jeff. I'm gonna guess we are. So go, Jeff.
Wait a
What's
minute.
your number 1?
You gonna guess we are?
It's just my prediction.
I think this pick is gonna surprise you, then, Jim.
You just changed your order.
No, I didn't actually. I will send you my document right now so you can verify.
I'm kidding.
I know.
I love that you're not doing TOS.
Well, maybe. I expect a hug from you for this one. So 5 words. 5 words. Modern take on old Trek. Hashtag 2 Spocks are better than 1. I think you know where I'm going with this, Jim.
My goodness. I love this.
Star Trek 2009.
Yes, with the first pick.
Yeah, man.
That is so awesome.
So my thought process behind this pick was this episode to me is time sensitive, right? We've got a new modern Trek series about to start. So what better way to introduce a newbie to Star Trek right now as Discovery's about to hit than with the cinematic take on the reintroduction of classic characters, and it introduces you to the Trek universe at the same time. So you got your modern special effects, but you've got the old sensibilities of TOS with a modern spin. So I think it'll prepare people for the new series that's upcoming and kind of give you a little bit of a primer on what you're going to get when you look backwards in Trek history.
Yeah, I love this movie. I love the casting. I love that Spock, who was literally from the first pilot for Trek in the Cage, as part of this film and bridging the connection. This is an awesome pick. Fantastic pick. And we're actually going to really hug it out because my number 1 pick for my 5-episode marathon is Star Trek 2009.
No way.
Yes, it is.
Come on.
We already have a duplicate. So my 5 words and a hashtag: incredibly respectful reinvention of Trek, hashtag destiny, because I love that theme in this film, and it's just a great movie about how this crew and really more importantly Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are destined to come together and be connected. For me, it's a work of genius. It's number 4 on my TrekRanks movie list, and it's just a great introduction to Star Trek, and it's a great way to start for a newcomer to get into Trek. Jeff, we are on the exact same page.
All right, man. Looking forward to matching again with number 4.
Okay, we'll see where we go from here. All right, so 2 choices for the Kelvin Timeline. I love that already. Gerardo, Kelvin Timeline getting repped early. What's your number 2 pick in your 5-episode marathon?
All right, this time I won't give it away immediately, but here's its description, here's its hashtag. So, where all literally began. Hashtag Star Trek Year 1. Broken Bow.
Oh, okay. That's literally where it all began.
Yeah.
So Enterprise, Broken Bow, I love it. And so what do you love about this episode?
Honestly, what's not to love about it, because it really does take you to the very beginning. It like shows you the spark that started the fire that is the Star Trek universe, essentially. And I know that this was the episode that caught my friend Antonio's attention the most when I was introducing him to Trek, because I had told him about all the series after showing him Where No Man has gone before, and he was like, "Wait, there's a prequel series? You got to start with that then, because I want to watch it all chronologically." And he was very impressed with it.
What do you guys? Any comments from you guys on Broken Bow? Well, it's one of my all-time favorites.
It's a great pick.
It's a great pick. I love it.
Yeah, it's my number. It's actually my favorite Star Trek pilot on TrekRanks.com. Okay, so Bill, what's your second episode? By the way, I love that you, Gerardo, your first pick is like super, super old school, and your second pick could not be any more new school. So, Bill, what's your number 2?
Well, my TNG choice for the 5-word summary, I have, well, there it sits, waiting. Hashtag Data Lives. Season 2, episode 9, The Measure of a Man.
Love this.
I think it beautifully defines Picard's character. I think it defines TNG as a whole. It's intellectual, it's compassionate, it's smart, really crisp dialogue, great character interplay. I think it's great. I think it, like I said, representative of what TNG kind of is as a show, the kind of message that it kind of has throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
It does a nice job of kind of introducing the audience to Data. If you haven't seen it before, it defines his character as well as anything ever has. So I think it's a nice starting off point. And I think as a playoff of the Doomsday Machine, which I have before this, it's kind of like the complete opposite side of the coin. Doomsday Machine's action adventure. It's exciting. It's rah-rah. The Measure of a Man is sort of a thinking man's episode. So kind of showing that Trek can do it all. It's got it covered.
Yep.
Whatever you're looking for, it's there.
It's definitely the quintessential morality play for Star Trek, especially TNG.
It was one of my comfort food picks too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not the first time it's been mentioned on Trek Ranks.
Great episode.
Sure, it won't be the last either.
Definitely not.
Sure.
That's for sure. All right, Jeff, what's your second pick in your marathon?
All right, man. I think this might come as a little bit of an unexpected one to you. 5 words. Newbies need a Quark comedy. Hashtag even DS9 can be funny. So a lot of examples of comedy in Star Trek, as we talked about on our previous top 5 humorous episodes. But I picked this one because of the real world frame of reference. And it's DS9, season 4, episode 8, Little Green Men.
I thought you were going to go there. That is awesome.
Yeah, I see the Area 51 reference. I think if someone's just getting into Trek, I like anchoring it to the real world. It gives them something that they can relate to. Like, everyone's heard of Area 51, right? And all the stories and the conspiracies and the jokes and the goofs. I think this fits in perfectly with someone who doesn't know a lot about Trek, being able to relate to it a little bit more because it has a familiar element to it. So, even the heaviest Trek series can have some levity here. It's a nice, goofy introduction to the Ferengi. I love the fact that they're considered Martians, and it's so silly, but such a fun episode. I think it's a great way to get your feet wet.
Yeah, I just watched it last week, and actually I was talking to someone at work yesterday about this exact topic, and they thought Little Green Men would be a great pick. So nice. It really is a great introductory episode to the variety of what Star Trek can do in terms of the different platforms of comedy, drama, action, romance. It's all there. All right. Well, my marathon continues with my second pick, which is my number 3 TOS episode at Trek Ranks, 5 words in a hashtag are tension builds, never lets go, hashtag I could have called you friend, and it is the balance of terror.
Nice.
And there's just no way I could possibly recommend an introductory marathon to someone without including something from the original series. I feel like this is, for me, the perfect episode to really not have someone get caught up on any of the potential, Trek stereotypes. So, like, some of the things about TOS, I don't want to scare anybody away with the costumes or the effects or the pacing or over-the-top performances. And I picked this episode because I think it's really just timeless in terms of how it's portrayed and the kind of two-man interaction between the Romulan commander and Kirk, and the message and everything that comes with the balance of terror, which obviously is a all-time fan favorite. So, yeah, that's my number two pick, Balance of Terror.
Excellent, man. Good one.
All right, so I am going. Let's see here. I'm trying to see who's going chronologically. Oh, Bill's the only one going chronologically, so I love that. Well, I guess Gerardo is if he picks his next 3 from Enterprise, or Kelvin. Well, let's find out. Gerardo, what's your number 3 pick in your 5-episode marathon?
All right. Because of that iconic yell, hashtag Prelude to Rathacon, Space Seed.
Ah, love it. So original series Space Seed. You're going all the way back to Khan. And so what stood out for you about this episode?
Well, it's really how iconic Khan is that really made it a must for my list, because, so many people who probably don't know that much about Star Trek know about Khan, even if it's just his name. And it really does the best introduction to the character, because you pretty much get his origins and also get a good idea of his motives, even if you've only seen Into Darkness, which when I first saw it was the only other version of Khan I knew of.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's so well done. Again, this is another timeless episode that in terms of the production values, right, Jeff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the strong TOS episodes, and I love that it's continued later on and it's revisited again in the Kelvin Timeline.
It can only make you want more. That is for sure. All right, Bill, what is your round 3 pick for your marathon?
Deep Space Nine was a challenge because it's so steeped in continuity and long range character development. So this was tough, but it's a deep cut choice.
We love deep cuts. We love deep cuts on TrekRanks.
My 5-word summary is Cisco stakes a deadly claim. Hashtag, spoiler alert, RIP Munez. It is season 5, episode 2, The Ship.
The Ship, yes.
Yeah, I picked it because I think it epitomizes Deep Space Nine pretty well. It's dark, it's gritty. I think it really does a nice job of showing that this is more of a blue-collar crew compared to what you see in TOS and TNG. It's, like I said, nitty-gritty. It's tense. It's claustrophobic. It's just different than anything you're going to find in TOS and TNG, and I think anything that would be shown in the Doomsday Machine and the Measure of a Man, which I picked before. So I think it shows that Deep Space Nine is its own animal. I think Cisco's in prime badass mode in it. So I think it might work as a hook. You don't need to know too much going into it. It doesn't too heavily rely on stuff that's come before, which is rare for later Deep Space Nine. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine somebody when they reveal the changeling at the end going, "What the heck is that?"
True,
thing?
that is fair enough. Yeah,
but I love this pick because it's the kind of episode that makes you want more, for sure. Anybody watching this episode wants to see where it goes from there. What do you think, Gerardo?
Oh, definitely. Like, it is an episode that I quite enjoyed the first time I saw it, so I can definitely see why it made the list.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites at TrekRanks. It ranks very high. All right, Jeff, let's continue your marathon. What's your number 3 pick?
All right, we're in the middle of the marathon now, so we're coming off of a comedy, so it's time to hit people over the head. 5 words, 2 iconic villains in one. Hashtag TNG setting the stage for things to come. So this is season 2 TNG episode 16. Q Who. So
nice pick.
So we got the introduction of one of the most iconic enemies in the Star Trek, of course, the Borg, and an incredible Q episode at the same time, which I think this episode, almost more than most other Q episodes, really nails home his character. And you got some terrible things that happen on board that ship, and due to his actions directly, and he doesn't undo any of it or even display any remorse, even though he has the power to. So great stuff there. You got a great Guinan bit in there, of course, with her face off with Q and 10 Forward. Great stuff. I love that. I'm also a big fan of Guinan, so good character building episode for her. And of course, tying it back to our current culture in the real world with the big zombie popularity, Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, etc. The Borg might resonate with new viewers a bit just on that, because it's a kind of a popular trend these days. So you got space zombies.
Literally, if this was a 6-episode marathon, we would have another duplicate, because it is the last episode that I cut from my list, and it was going to be my number one mention when we get to our secondary systems. But this is again for my Prime Directive, this is the quintessential episode for wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to watch this episode and not be like, what happens? They just run away? The captain's like, I'm fine with running away. Let's do this another day.
Yeah, man. I always see that cube way out there. It's just starting to come towards Federation space after having the Enterprise and the tractor beam and losing it, out of nowhere. They had no idea what happened. So they're like, all right, we got to figure out where the ship came from, and we're going.
Yeah, it's a fantastic pick. So, all right, well, my to end the third round here with my number 3 pick for our marathon. My last pick was kind of a mano with Kirk and the Romulan Commander, and now I am mano a mano. It's my number 10, TrekRanks Deep Space Nine top 10 all-time classic. 5 words in a hashtag. Who is the Galatep Butcher? Hashtag Amen Maritza. I would have said who is the Butcher of Galatep, but that would have been 6 words. So it is DS9 episode duet from the first season. And for me, this episode is just screams Star Trek. And if you like this episode and you can get hooked on this, you're going to love it's the morality play that just sells Trek for me. It's amazing piece of work. First real home run for DS9, and I love Kira. I love seeing her in action. And you get, the first real taste of the complexity of her character. So, yeah, it's just for me, it's a perfect episode with amazing performances and amazing drama. So it is one that I early on realized I was not gonna not have on my list.
Excellent.
Great choice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the final 2 rounds. The 4th pick for Mr. Gerardo Yanes. What do you got?
All right, so my 5 words is get to know these characters, hashtag mirror naked now. The naked time.
Nice.
The naked time. Back to TOS. Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, what stood out for you, G?
All right, well, I felt the reason I used that specific hashtag is because I genuinely feel it was everything that Gene wanted the naked now to be, and it just accomplished it so well. It accomplished it in such a brilliant way, because it's like the 4th or 5th episode in season 1, and it really allows you to get know these characters so well, especially Spock, who I don't really think you see an emotional side to up until that point. And it just really does its job so well, because it also has comedy in it, and it has some very serious moments as well. It does a nice balance. And I feel that really will draw people into the series if they're just someone who hasn't really heard a whole lot about Star Trek or has never really been that into the franchise.
Yeah, it is a super revealing episode into the characters' kind of psyche when their guard is down and there's no inhibitions. So a great pick, and obviously an all-time classic episode of the original series.
I love that pick.
Yeah, it's inspired. All right, Bill. I know we're gonna love your number 4 pick. What is it?
For Voyager.
All right.
Voyager love going here. My 5-word summary is Janeway forms her own federation. Hashtag long live Phantome.
Nice.
The Void.
Season 7, episode 15, The Void.
Sweet.
So good.
Yeah, I think it explores a concept that's at the heart of Star Trek, togetherness and the need to work together. It's about Janeway's principles, which is that, it's I think it capitalizes on the premise of Voyager. It kind of explains without knowing, that these guys are out there on their own. They don't have the resources that other ships might have. So I think it works pretty well as a little intro to Voyager. I think if you stumble into syndication run of Voyager and you pop that on, I think you might come away thinking, I kind of have an idea of what that show is.
This episode is literally the Federation in 42 minutes. It's exactly they go into this void and they need to build a federation to figure out a way to get out and create partnerships and friendships and ways to convince people who aren't on board with them to work with them. It is absolute perfect episode for a marathon in which you're trying to educate someone on Star Trek and get them hooked, because it's basically mini Star Trek.
It is. And it's not, the reason I love it so much is that it's not preachy. It's not bash you over the head with it. It's action adventure. It's exciting. It's really well shot. It's got good score. It's a well done, well produced episode that I think is kind of underrated in the grand scheme of things.
It really is underrated. And that's a great point about it's not a bonk on the head in terms of the message. Because you kind of finish the episode, you're not really thinking, oh, it's this is a mini federation that they've just created. It's not really obvious. It's really, really well done episode. I'm actually kicking myself that it wasn't on my short list. I don't know why.
It's a deep cut.
Oh, it is. Your list is awesome. I knew it would be. Actually, every list is awesome because they're all Star Trek lists. All right, Jeff, right. What's your number 4 pick?
All right, so coming off of Q-Who, I was going to try to go easy on people, but this episode was always one that I used to introduce people to Star Trek. It was always one of my top recommendations, so there was no way it couldn't make it on this list, but I'm surprised it wasn't my number 1 because I thought it was originally going to be. So my 5 words are love, loss, and time travel. Hashtag, I'm going to mess this up. Hashtag, put wrong what once went right.
Mm-hmm.
It's TOS Season 1, Episode 28. City. The obvious, the city on the edge of forever. I don't know how you couldn't want to use this to introduce people to Star Trek. This, to me, is an almost perfect Star Trek, one of the best episodes of all time. That's something that a newbie to Star Trek needs to see. I think Joan Collins, Edith Keeler is just a spectacular representation of everything Star Trek embodies, the good and the hopeful. And that could be your real world tie, too, since, we haven't ventured into the stars yet, but everyone can get inspired by her speech. Couldn't they? I think sitting there and listening to that would get anybody inspired to do good and seek out the truth and travel beyond their means. And, you got classic Kirk and Spock at their best. We were introduced to them, obviously, at the beginning of our marathon with 2009. So now you're seeing the original Kirk and Spock and another great performance by DeForest Kelley. So you're seeing the original 3 triad. And it's probably one of the best love and loss stories in Trek. Plus, you got time travel. What's not to like?
It's got it all. And if you've listened to any previous episodes of Trek Ranks, I can't remember which one it was, but we ranted about this in one of our episodes that there's some people who act like this episode is not a Star Trek episode or it doesn't encapsulate Star Trek.
And it burns me.
Insane.
I don't get that at all. This is quintessential Star Trek. It defines everything about the series. Just because they're not on the bridge of the Enterprise does not mean it's not. Just don't get that.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep. That's an awesome pick. It was definitely on my short list. And we're going to do the stats on it for the next episode, but City on the Edge of Forever has definitely been the most mentioned episode so far in Trek Ranks, which kind of plays to its reputation. So, all right, who's up next? Oh, that's me. The end of round 4, my 4th pick. So you said that you were trying to change off your Q-Who pick to City. I'm just giving people more sad picks right here because my current pick plays really like a double feature with duet in some way because it is. So I'll give you the hashtag. The 5 words in a hashtag. Oh, this is a dead giveaway. Is the name's Bell, Gabriel Bell. Hashtag. And I don't like your hat. So, it is past tense. It's from season 3 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one of my all-time favorite episodes. And yeah, maybe not the happiest feel-good episode of Trek ever, but I think it's the kind of thought-provoking and really well-made science fiction that I think just would motivate someone to seek out more. So for me, it's really got everything. It's the amazing sci-fi conceit, the great character arcs, the usage of the characters. There's some humor offset in this episode with O'Brien and Kira, and it's obviously got the very, very prescient social commentary that's just oozing out of every pore of this episode. So it's all-time great Trek for me, and I felt like I needed to have it for my introductory marathon for someone coming to Trek.
It's a great pick.
Excellent, man.
Totally agree.
All right, I think we're here. We're at the final round. We're going to close off our 5-episode marathon. I love this. Just burning through it because we need to get people off this podcast and watching some Trek for the first time.
Let's not do number ones then. Let's just end it here.
No, we're going to finish it off. That's what we do on TrekRanks. We make the hard choices. All right, G, what is your 5th pick in your 5-episode marathon to close it off?
All right. Well, here's the 5-word summary. The most general audience friendly, #enterprising young fans, Star Trek 2009.
Yes, 3-time choice. I love it. So obviously this is a movie you love, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like, it's my second favorite of the Kelvin Timeline films, after Beyond, that is. And it's just ideal. If the episodes don't do it for someone, then this is probably the thing that might finally hook them, because while Into Darkness is what led to me getting into the shows and stuff, this film definitely is ideal when it comes to the 3 Kelvin Timeline films and trying to get someone into the franchise. Because with Beyond, I feel you kind of have to had seen the previous 2 films, or at least the first one, to be able to fully appreciate it. And it's just got everything that really a general audience would want from not just a Star Trek film, but a film in general, because it was a big hit when it first came out, if I'm remembering correctly, and it earned that for a good reason, because aside from just being good Star Trek, it's just a really good film.
Yeah, the action and the humor in this movie are just spectacular, and it's got those modern day sensibilities of a tentpole franchise film. It really is a great way to sell Trek, and it's just always makes me sad when there's those fans out there who just can't see that. So if you're listening and you're one of them, give it another try, because this film is so respectful of what Star Trek is and what the history of Trek is, and the way they approached it, and this cast. I mean, you just can't do any better than the 7 people they put in these roles. So spectacular pick. Gee, I love your marathon. We're going to break it down when we get to the regeneration cycle. So Bill, close off your marathon. What's your last?
My Enterprise choice is, my 5-word summary is: we need a Prime Directive. #endlessly debatable decision. And it's season 1, episode 13, Dear Doctor.
Nice one.
Yeah. Kind of similar to The Void. I think it explores something that's at the very heart of Star Trek, with, non-interference, the Prime Directive, sticking your nose in things maybe you shouldn't, the consequences that leads to. I think it highlights Enterprise's premise, just like The Void does for Voyager. It capitalizes on the prequel idea. And most importantly, I think it sparks debate and discussion. I think it's pretty impossible if you sit and pay attention to that episode, because the decision is so kind of excruciating and it could go either way, that there's going to be a conversation to have. And that's what great Star Trek does. It ends, and it doesn't just end. You keep talking about it. There's things to delve into and sink your teeth into. So that's an episode that I always want to show people, because I want to see what their take is. I want to see where they fall on it. Do they agree with Archer? Do they agree with Phlox? I think it's a pretty quintessential Trek episode.
Yeah, it really is. And if this was a 7-episode marathon, this would have been on my list too, because it was my other last cut. I love this episode, and you're so right about the way it would engage people. To see which way they would go on this. Because who knows what the right decision is. Yeah.
There's no easy answer there, and that's one of the things I love about it. I love that it doesn't really take a side. There's not a clean cut happy ending there. It's goes the Private Little War route where it's kind of like oh man, you know, we're settling here, and it's not something we're happy with.
It really is, and definitely got to mention in our Prime Directive TrekRanks episode.
Yeah,
for sure. It's key. All right, Jeff, close off your what's your number 5 episode for your Trek Newcomer?
All right, newbies. I know you're can't wait to get this episode over with and go watch some Star Trek. But if you guys bear with me for 1 second, this pick is actually a personal one for me because you know a lot of people who listen to the show know that my uncle got me into Trek in the 70s watching TOS reruns, but my aunt, his wife, had no interest in Star Trek whatsoever. But the events that transpire in this pick actually got her so intrigued that she couldn't believe it when she heard it. So she had to watch it, and that got her started on Star Trek. So that's why this one made it to number 1, because I saw it convert a non-Trekkie into someone who loves Star Trek. So 5 words: cinematic Trek at its best. Hashtag best death scene ever. Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. So my aunt, when she heard that Spock died at the end of this movie, spoiler alert, she could not believe it because she really was not into Trek, but had heard about Kirk and Spock and McCoy and everything from my uncle so many times, but she's like, how could they possibly have done this? So she watched the movie and was a basket case, like all of us were. So, I can't think of a better reason to leave off the end of the marathon with this, because what Trek film would leave you wanting more at the end? Once you get to the end of this, it's such an emotional roller coaster. You've got this incredible film. You've got, obviously, Gerardo mentioned Khan earlier with a Space Seed pick. So this is a natural progression from there. So, you got an iconic villain who's played perfectly. You've got incredible, phenomenal space combat done with practical effects. So you've got the bookend to 2009 at the start of your marathon. You saw all the CGI, newfangled effects. Now you're seeing how they used to do it back in the older days with actual models. And Spock's death, I think, is hands down the best death scene in Star Trek, bar none. I mean, the moment is both equally human and Vulcan at the same time. And I don't know if there's ever been another time where the two halves of Spock are finally in that perfect balance when he executes that final solution to the Kobayashi Maru test. He's the only one who truly won the no-win scenario, in my mind. So great film from beginning to end, and it leaves you wanting more at the end because you just can't believe what happened. And it can't end there, right? Perfect end to me.
Yeah. So that's such a great summary. That's how I felt walking out of the theater. And
me too.
In 82 or whenever it was. Yeah, I'm really glad that Wrath of Khan made one of our 20 picks here, because that's obviously as famous as it gets when it comes to Trek. And if you combine it with Gerardo's list, you get to see Space Seed beforehand. So
there you go.
It's really perfect. And Into Darkness. Oh, no, he didn't name it. Okay.
That's for
Unless
later.
that's your number 1.
All right. That could be my number 1. Who could know? Click. Everyone's turning off there. All right. My number 5. I love Into Darkness, by the way. So now they're really turning it off. All right. My number 5 pick. We have another duplicate.
Uh-oh.
And it is how I'm going to end my 5-episode marathon is with what I think is the best and most accessible pilot in Star Trek history, and that is Enterprise's Broken Bow.
Nice.
And my 5-word hashtag is, well, it's what I just said. Best ever pilot introduces amazing threads. Hashtag Klingons, Vulcans, Sulabans. So for me, this episode just works on every level, introducing a great series, and just it gets people really quickly invested in the characters and interested in their unique mission, which is, exploring space for the first time for humans, being out there, and it just lays it all out. And I just love this episode. It got me hooked on Enterprise right away. Love that they, have a lot of Klingon action and the Vulcans who are cranky, which I love. So I actually think the Sulaban are great foils as well for the series. So yeah, just a great pilot from my end.
Couldn't agree more. Jinx.
I totally agree.
Yeah, we got the duplicate at the end there, Gerardo. So, all right. Well, listen, I just want to finish up by saying that I mean, these 4 lists are amazing, and I'm really just hoping that some way they help spark at least one newbie to kind of tear their way through the 700 plus hours of Trek. So, yeah. And while they're doing that, we're going to be stepping into our alcoves to regenerate for just a quick minute.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, we are in the regeneration cycle. We just come out of our alcoves. We're going to recap our picks. I love these lists. Let me start. So Gerardo, let's go through your 5 picks. I notice, but it's going to break it down here really quick. So you've got actually 3 TOS episodes, and I know that's not your favorite series. The 09 film, and then Enterprise Boken Bow. So run down your 5 picks really quick.
All right, so my 5 picks were Where No Man Has Gone Before, Broken Bow, Space Seed, The Naked Time, and Star Trek 2009. TOS was kind of the main thing I wanted to focus on just because, aside from TNG, it's kind of the most iconic Star Trek series, and it's the one that people really seem to be drawn to. Like, I notice a lot of people who are either acquaintances or friends that aren't necessarily big Star Trek fans. For them, it's like the series that they're always most invested in. It's just kind of the perfect starting point in my eyes because it really is, it introduces so much of what makes Star Trek, you know? It'd be kind of hard not to have so many episodes from there. Even though it may not be my favorite of the series, it's definitely contributed so much and is a series that I really feel people sometimes don't give enough credit to because some people are just turned off by the fact that it's so old and that it doesn't have that good of special effects in regards to the stuff we can do in TV now. But if you really can look past that, it really does stand the test of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. And that's exactly right. It stands the test of time, and it's where it all began. So it's really cool that you as a new fan have so many original series episodes. So Bill, let's break down yours. I love that you went with the chronological order, one series at a time, top pick. That's great because it gives a different flavor for these types of lists when compared to some of the other ones. So run through your 5.
Yeah, so my 5 were TOS, The Doomsday Machine, TNG, The Measure of a Man, Deep Space Nine, The Ship, Voyager, The Void, and Enterprise, Dear Doctor.
And what were some of your secondary system picks that you might have just missed the cut?
Well, like I said, Deep Space Nine was really tough for me to kind of narrow down something that would work as a standalone. I love Jeff's pick of Little Green Men. I think that's great. Jim, your choice of Duet was my number 2. That's where I was wavering, and I went with The Ship ultimately because I wanted to focus on Cisco a little more. I kind of wanted to have that be one of the arcs through these. Is like you get a good look at the captain.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, so that was tough. Shy away from Duet, but the number one that it pained me, especially after this weekend. This Sunday, I went to a movie theater in my area that showed Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home, and Undiscovered Country back to back to back on Father's Day.
Yeah.
And the Wrath of Khan was packed. It was full house. They asked at the beginning how many people were in there that had never seen it before. A handful of hands went up. That place was just totally in tune with that movie. That totally works. Everything that was supposed to work worked. All the laughs people laughed at. All the thrills people were clapping at. It's an incredible, perfect movie. It's not even a great Star Trek movie alone. It's just a great science fiction movie.
I agree.
And to be honest with you, if I didn't have to, if I wasn't doing a marathon, if I could only pick one thing for, like, if there's one piece of Star Trek that somebody on this earth has to see before they die, it's probably the Wrath of Khan.
Sweet.
Got it. Yeah, it's an interesting, different way to look at it because you're picking one for each series. But if you can only pick one, you go away from it and pick Wrath. I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would do. If I knew I only had one shot, one Hail Mary for one person, it's going to be the Wrath of Khan. Because how many times do you hear in interviews and people like, that's what hooked them? It works. It's just, it's a staple that I don't think is ever going to stop. You know, it's just going to be the thing that I think generates the most, long-term commitment to the franchise. People see that, and they for all the reasons Jeff hit on it. It's kind of perfect.
Can I say I'm envious of you having sat in a theater with a full house watching that? I would have loved to have been there at the moment when the Enterprise comes up from underneath behind Reliant, and you hear that fanfare go, and you're like, "All right, Kirk's gonna kick his ass!"
I know. It's
People
so
are gonna
good.
scream. Oh, I get so emotional when that happens. I love that scene.
There's so many moments like that. And it's amazing when I go to these kinds of things. I haven't done too many of them, but when I go to a new Star Trek movie or one of these things, when they rarely come up, it's awesome to see ages ranging from 80s to 6 in there.
Yep.
And there was a little kid right in front of me. He was squirming but mesmerized by the SETI Alpha eel going into Chekhov's gear. Like that was totally working. Like everything, all the moments were just clicking, and it just reminded me of how perfect that movie is. And if I didn't kind of lock into this list ahead of that day and didn't want to go back to it, it was tough to not put it on somehow.
That's cool. I was going to actually ask if you were tempted by any film, so that's a good summary that you obviously were.
I was.
So, hey, before we get to Jeff, Gerardo, I forgot to ask if you had any secondary system picks. Any picks that just missed your list, or you were bummed to have to not include?
Well, I definitely originally had trouble with tribbles on my list.
Yeah.
Because it's just so hilarious. It's probably the most hilarious episode of TOS, and the comedy is just so perfect, and it always pleases people. Like, I remember it was one of the first episodes I showed one of my sisters, and she just absolutely loved it. Like, she said, "Okay, I now like Star Trek."
Yeah.
Like, she's very young, so that's kind of the response I expected. But, it just really does it. And doesn't just do it for little kids. It does it for people of all ages, because I've even seen one of my parents catch some glimpses of it and find it amusing, even though they don't care for the franchise that much.
It was definitely on my long list. What was that, Bill?
I was going to say that's because it's smart humor. It's really good humor. Like it's well written, so it really holds up.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Let's go through your marathon pick, which included, it looks like, 2 films, which I love, and then original series, TNG and Deep Space Nine. So
I
run
mixed
through
it up a little bit. So we started off with Star Trek 2009. Moved into DS9, Season 4, Episode 8, Little Green Men. Then on to TNG, Season 2, Episode 16, Q Who. And followed up by TOS, Season 1, Episode 28, The Venerable City on the Edge of Forever. And then wrapping up with another Love Fest plug for Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, one of the best science fiction films of all time. Come at me.
You can't give it too much love. That's fantastic. So, all right, what was on your secondary systems? What did you hate to cut?
All right, so I already confessed to cutting Doomsday Machine. We mentioned it before, but Jim, you know how broken my heart was not to have included The Devil in the Dark.
Yeah, I thought
I wanted to. Broke my heart to cut it off.
Yeah, same with me. It's both of our favorite original series. I thought you might include it, but
newbies, watch it, please. Add an extra pick, watch it. It is such a great episode. And believe it or not, I'll take some flack for this. I almost had Caretaker on my list.
Oh, interesting.
I was looking for a Voyager pick. Because I do like Voyager, and I have fond memories of watching Voyager as it aired, and with some buddies of mine. We always got together to watch it, and I thought, I was trying to pick an episode from Voyager that would represent the series well, and I said, you know what? Caretaker's a little creepy. It's got a little bit of that strange, illusionary feel of Star Trek sometimes. You've got some moral dilemmas there, a big moral dilemma at the end. And you get to learn how they get to the Delta Quadrant in the first place, and there's just a lot of great stuff to like in that episode, whether you like the episode or not, but it's a really great episode to introduce you to Voyager.
Yeah, I agree. It killed me not to have Voyager on my list too, but
I really wanted to.
It was tough when I included my number 1 pick, the Star Trek 2009 film, which was number 1 on my 5-episode marathon, and then followed by Balance of Terror from TOS, Duet from Deep Space Nine, Past Tense also from Deep Space Nine. So I didn't get too diverse there. And then Broken Bow from Enterprise to round it off. So I didn't have a TNG or a Voyager pick, which pains me. And on my secondary systems, we mentioned Q Who and Dear Doctor were both on my 6 and 7 cut list. And then I had 2 Voyager episodes, which were Deadlock and One Small Step. I really wanted to include. I love One Small Step and the way it introduces the kind of heart of Voyager. So, all right, so let's go through the quick statistics here. So we had, out of our 20 picks, 7 from original series, which is more than I thought. That is amazing. 4 from Deep Space Nine, 3 each from Enterprise, and the Kelvin Timeline, our triple pick, with 3 of us choosing 2009. 2 TNG episodes and 1 lone Voyager episode. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, for not giving Voyager a goose egg, because we love Voyager. So
happy to oblige.
Love that. All right. Yep. After all that, we still aren't quite done because our ship has once again flown directly into a temporal causality loop. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The Enterprise has been caught up in a temporal causality loop, and I suspect that something similar may have happened to you.
All right, so to get us out of this week's temporal loop, I'm going to share with everyone one of my favorite lists that we received from listeners like you at our TrekRanks Twitter account following our last episode, the top 5 comedy episodes in Star Trek history. That was an unbelievably fun episode to record, right, Jeff?
I loved it. Loved it. You know my love for comedy, so that was super fun.
Yeah, we just got a ton of great feedback, and when we were recording it, I dropped a ton of references to the outrageous Akona, and since that episode is obviously really not among too many fans' favorite lists, but it is focused on comedies in terms of, Data trying to understand it. But so imagine my surprise when the list came in from Twitter user The Borg. It's actually spelled TEH Borg. I'm not sure why they do that. And they can be found at Star Trek 1701 at STRTRK 1701. So Star Trek with no vowels. Yep, familiar handle. They sent us a great list that reads as follow. Their number 5, oh my gosh, the Kelvin Star Trek 2009 film, which is absolutely hilarious. Their number 4 pick was Body and Soul, which I love. That was on my short list, and we didn't really give it a mention in the episode, but it is hilarious with that Jerry Ryan performance imitating the Doctor. Number 3 from TNG, the outrageous Akona, is on their comedy list. Nice. So I love that. And then number 2 is the Magnificent Ferengi from Deep Space Nine. And number 1 which was number 2 on my list, I think, was Bride of Chaotica from Voyager. Nice. It was brilliant. So I love this list, not only because it included 2 episodes from my list, but just that mention of the outrageous Akona, which they defended on Twitter as an episode that they enjoy. So, and I love that 09 was on there. So great list from at Star Trek 1701. Very awesome. All right. So as we break from this week's temporal causality loop, just a reminder that we want to hear from you guys. The show is better when we hear from you. So put together your 5-episode marathons for Trek Newcomers, or your comedy list, or your comfort food episode list, any list. Put it together and send it to TrekRanks. Give us a call. Tell us your picks. You can call us at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP. We'd love to play your pick or read your list off if you send it on Twitter. So just keep them coming. Hopefully we'll hear from you and you can be featured on the next episode of the TrekRanks podcast. And speaking of the next episode of TrekRanks, we are going to have a little bit of a niche topic, and it's one that I think people are going to find more depth in and more layers than what you originally are thinking. So we're going to be compiling our list of top 5 food moments in Star Trek history. So get your cellular peptide cake with mint frosting ready for that episode. So
squeeze a few gel packs on it.
Yeah. Jeff and I are going to be joined by our good friend Adam Drozen, who's a crazy foodie who you can follow on Twitter at Adam Drozen. He's a great guy, and that's guaranteed to be an awesome conversation. So, yeah, Jeff, that one's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, Jim. It's a lot of fun. I love Adam. He's a great guy. Can't wait to have him back on the show.
That's great. All right. So, before we wrap it up, one more huge thanks to Bill Mann and Gerardo Yanes for joining us tonight. You guys were awesome. I love your list. I love the different views. So I'm really glad you were able to make time to be here, guys.
Yeah, thank you for asking us to come on. Thrilled to be here, like I said, and you guys are killing it with the show. It's a blast to listen to, and I can't wait to see what you guys have coming up.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, guys, send us your ideas. There's too many ideas. I can't weed through them.
There's so many.
Gerardo, I hope you had a good time, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very honored to have been allowed on the show. Like, I really didn't expect it to ever happen, to be honest. So seriously, thank you a lot.
Well, it won't be the only time. And hey, Bill, so continued progress and good luck with TrekLive. We love.
Hey, thank you.
Love what you guys are doing and how you're connecting with fans there. And yeah, I'm hoping the challenge of TrekLive is you gotta have the exact right time you're at your computer to get on there.
I know. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I like that. It makes it more fun because every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be on my bike at that time, or I'm not gonna be on my computer. I'm gonna have to listen to it later. So
yeah,
really,
I appreciate the kind words, and we love doing it, and we're gonna keep doing it. And
cool.
Hoping to keep growing. And
all right, great stuff, guys. Appreciate everyone engaging with us here as we wrap up episode 5 of the TrekRanks Podcast. And as always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.